Hi, my name is Brett, and it is still early October, which is yes, and it's Sunday, so all the neighbors are mowing away and raking and burning and all that stuff. So um, it's a little up close and personal this time, trying to reduce the sound. So without further ado, I figured if you're still here, then we're all initiated. So just little boundaries that I should be made aware is firstly, I'm gonna have to do these at my own pace, just open and shutting that Dyson sphere as I please, okay? And also what I'm doing here is not clinical. This is not clinical what I'm doing, and I think that's important for folks to know, is that a lot of what I'm borrowing from is clinical, but this is not clinical. This is me. This is the hidden parts. We're expanding the Johari window here. All right, this is me. So, yeah. And here's another thing: is that even though this is not clinical, I try to remain trauma informed as best I can in the world. And what gives me confidence, versus pride. And maybe why some of this stuff is a little bit more digestible is that confidence for me comes from my ethical boundaries, the principles in which I live by. And so I'm lucky enough to have some really strong ethical boundaries because of what I get to do. So it helps protect me, and it helps protect the world, I hope. And I mess up on it every day. But I can always return to center, which is beautiful. It's nice to have that. It provides confidence, something I was lacking in for a very long time, which is this, I think maybe a good segue into what I want to talk about, which is Shadow Fae. And this is going to be maybe a long video. I'm going to try to be concise, but it's a lot of stuff to cover here. Needless to say, just suffice it to say, I should say, Shadow Fae are very, very powerful creatures. Often, most of them are fractal empaths like many of us, and which means they've been broken and put themselves back together, and that's where maybe not everyone is Shadow Fae, and I'll talk about that. So with Shadow Fae, we've all got our arc light, and it's important to realize with arc light is that is painful. There is no deeper pain, at least in my experience, than love pain, and that's what's happening there. There's fear involved. Fear, it's kind of that faith of the mustard seed sort of fear, like holy shit, I am this powerful, I'm a piece of God's heart. It's hard to deal with. So during that process, Christian Slater would call it the gleaming the cube, but during that process it can be painful, it can be beautiful and painful at the same time, and many other things, as we know, dialectically speaking. So with the Shadow Fae, they've kind of learned the weirding way, the Frank Herbert weirding way, which is what I call, instead of, it's the same thing as arc light, it's just, I call it dark light. And their dark light is because they're in a constant state of shadow work. The trickster side, the hidden emotion side, the hidden from us. And so they're constantly ripping themselves apart, what they believe in, the things that are important, and ripping it apart and putting it back together. And as a result of that, they become very strong. When you build and rebuild and build and refortify it, whew, but they exist in the shadow world most of the time. And you'll know when you're around a Shadow Fae, because you feel it. It's a power, and it's a dark power. It's dark, not being negative. Don't put that on it. It's think of it more like it's October, and it's almost a full moon, and there's a dark duskiness, and they've flowy black, and a murder of crows flying from behind them. Caw, caw. That's a Shadow Fae. Interestingly about Shadow Fae is that apparently they all love the Golden Girls. I don't know, that's the thing. And also, music is very specific on what they like. So like in my generation, it's kind of like Trent Reznor and Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain is like their thing. But earlier generations, it's more like the Doors and credence, which that makes sense. Well, anyway, so there's kind of these little things, little hidden things you can see, but they give off a feeling, and a lot of times people don't like that feeling because it's not something, it's powerful, and it's not something that they're used to. That, well, it's truth, it's reality, it's they're changing, and that change is creating power, change agents of change. So they're pretty powerful. And here's the nice thing about this, is that I'm not Shadow Fae. I spent 10 years in the shadow world, and that was plenty of time for me, and I don't intend to go back. It's a beautiful place there, especially with all those dark lights that you can see, and he kind of a ship passing another ship in a night kind of a thing, you know. But they keep to themselves, tend to anyway. They got their people, but every once in a while they'll pop their head out and get a little bit of that arc light, and then they'll go, nope, I remember that, and go back to the dark light, which is, again, it's powerful stuff. Oh, here we go, neighbors mowing, better get closer. And so here's the cool thing, is that I knew early on as a kid that I had anger problems. I was not happy with my lot in life because of health issues and other things, and I just was frustrated and angry. And luckily I had a very powerful empath as a mother. I get into that someday, is about called the Phoenix Gemini empath. That's the most powerful one I've ever seen. But luckily she taught me about how to control my anger, or how to transmute it, I should say, without any training too. She did it all on her own. Anyway, when I get really stressed, sometimes I lose it goes offline, that great stuff she taught me, and I get my padding comes off and my knives are out. And I knew I needed something powerful to, I'm not going to have mom forever. I needed something, and so I looked for a partner for that, and it took a while. Boy, there's a lot of powerful, cis women out there for sure. And so I looked around, and luckily one plopped right in my lap. The most powerful thing I'd ever seen was Shadow Fae. And not just any Shadow Fae. We're talking a fire drake from the Great Divide beneath Butte. If you live beneath Butte already, you've got a pretty thick skin. Come on. You've been to Butte, you know. So, I love Butte, by the way. It's very special and deep to my heart, Butte. So I just mean it's probably tough to live underneath them. Anyway, she's the power that she has is, anyone that's ever met Janet, it's pretty quick. You go, whoa, okay. And so luckily enough, I had some skills at my disposal, and maybe used a little bit of the borrowed old Weirding Way on her with some of the little bit of shadow work that I had done at that point. And all right, and I heart tether to heart tether, and then fired a cable, and it took us 4 years to finally start dating. But we got her done, and then now it's been anyway. So very powerful, and it's hard when you're a Shadow Fae with all that pain and growth and pain and growth and pain and growth and pain and growth, to find someone that can keep up with that. It's the thing about, well, from my perspective as a cis man, from my perspective, it's hard to find a mate, and I'll tell you why. Because the thing about women is, as we've learned, is that they live in that high beam, and that is painful. It's not easy. And so, lost my track of thought with the mower going. So powerful, not easy. Hit one. See, this is what happens. I gotta get in the right kind of state of mind, and when you got all this going on, it's like murderous. But I made a commitment to make these things all the way through. So suffer through the mowing. All right. Anyway, with arc light, with high beam, it's pretty intense and painful. You touch it and it feels great, and you hold on to it and you try to hold on loosely and don't let go, but certainly don't hold on tight because it's hard. And I forgot where I was going with it, but yeah, it's important to realize that it's not so easy to find a mate. And now I remember what I was trying to say, which is that women, cis women, or women who like men, it's hard because the thing about men that makes us like, ooh, like the bad boy, like, oh, I like this guy, he's a bad boy. You know what it is? It's like, so, ooh, what is that? It's pain. It's because they've been through pain, childhood pain, or whatever pain you're seeing them. And you're like, finally, somebody I can share this with, and we can. And then they realize pretty dang quick that us men, we do not have a great pain tolerance. Not at first. It takes us a long time to build them. Usually, not say every guy, but it's And so they're like, what did I do with this bum here? Can't sit in this pain with me and share it, and you just squirming and getting angry all the time about it and not wanting to be here, and it's not fair and all this, and I've been living this the whole time. So it's hard. So you got to find, those like-minded people, and or find someone with a lot of arc light. Because with arc light, sure, it hurts, and it helps build connection, and that also comes with dialectical thought and all those good things. So just look for the arc light. If they're hitting the immortal part of you along with the other part, I mean, it's tricky. So anyway, I was lucky. One plopped in my lap. And I wish I was a Shadow Fae. They're so cool. But I got some tricks, I learned a few things along the way, so I can't complain. Anyway, well, there you go, Shadow Fae. Woody the Water Empath is going to be great. I don't know when you're going to get it, maybe next week, and I don't know. But thanks for being patient with all this, and yeah, keep leaning on your folks. And if you're out there and you're single, and I'm sorry I was using just heterosexual terms, I mean everybody. I mean, we all deal with this stuff. It's not just guys and girls, it's everything in between and beyond. So it's just learning and finding the power within you, which I have a whole nother thing about that too, about sometimes we need a little nos. Sometimes we got to remind ourselves, especially as us empathetic people, we got to remind ourselves who we are. And I have my own, which I don't want to take too much time, so that'll come next. But yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, I hope everyone's doing all right, and yeah, I look forward to the next one. Oh, not suffice it. One other thing. Last time I did that, a lot of people reached out, and that was nice. That I feel pretty powerful now. Like I'm getting those cables hitting me, and thank you for reaching out. And I haven't gotten back to everybody, but I love my fellow fractals and my water empaths out there, and ooh, the ghost empaths. We'll talk about those at another time. But thank you, and everyone else in between. Those old connections that I haven't heard from that just blink. So maybe it was a good lesson for me that maybe sharing more is better. So who would have thought? All right. Well, see you later.